what happens at the middle and the back end. No? What happens when your franchisee decides to sell? No? What happens when there is a violation? What happens if sales are not as good as planned and they decide to either sell or to close shop? No? Can they just sell it back to you? Can they open in another location? No? All these possible scenarios have to be addressed in the franchise agreement. So it has to be very detailed. No? In fact, to give you an idea, our franchise agreements can go up to 50 pages in length. No? So it's very detailed. It's much more detailed than many of the lease agreements in the mall. No? And that's because it can go for a very long time, and there are many possible scenarios that can happen. As you may know, you also need an operations manual. And so there are people who will buy your franchise that don't have any background in business or don't have any background in the type of industry that you are in. No? They might want to go into food, but they can't cook an egg. No? They might, they want to franchise your business, but they don't have the background in that type of business. So the operations manual needs to be able to teach them and also serves as your guide for monitoring how they're doing their business. Okay? So it's common that when somebody buys your franchise, you visit them periodically to check on their business and to make sure that they're complying with the standards and procedures that you've set in the manual. If there's no manual, you can imagine that each franchisee will have their own way of doing things. Since there's no standard that's documented, that's written down, then they're free to do whatever they want, no? As long as they carry the brand name. And as the owner of the brand name, that will hurt your business, no? Because you want consistency, you want standards that are kept. When customers go to your stores and to franchise stores, you want them to have the same product, the same taste, the same price, the same experience. You don't want going them to one branch and being told, we're not exactly the same because we're just a franchisee. That's why we don't have the same products, we don't have the same taste. No? That's not acceptable, no? And that's bad for you. If you spent a lot of time on your brand, you spent a lot of time on quality, that has to be consistent across the system. And the operations manual is one of the steps to ensure that. If it's not written in the operations manual, then it's very difficult to enforce. So when your compliance officer visits the franchisee and they say, you have a violation because you didn't follow this particular procedure. If it's not listed in the operations manual, then what procedure are we talking about? No? It cannot be just verbal. If it's important enough, it has to be written down. So operations manual is very critical to maintaining standards, and it's also a living document. No? It's not that you write an operations manual and you give it to the franchisee on day one and you leave it alone for the next 10 years. No? Operations manual has to be updated as soon as there are any new procedures or changes to the system. So you also have to have a system in managing these changes. You don't want to send updates to the operations manual without collecting the obsolete procedures. Otherwise, there will be 2 or even 3 procedures there, and which procedure should the franchisee follow? Once you have the structure, the agreement, and the manual, you already have a franchise program. You can start contracting with franchisees. You can start granting franchise to people. But you also need to be able to have a marketing plan on how to reach prospective franchisees. In your stores, you're probably familiar with this. Word of mouth is the strongest form of advertising, because you don't have to spend on ads and commercials. and it's testimonies of people who have good experiences about the product. However, the problem with word of mouth is it's very slow. No? And actually, in franchising, if you wait for word of mouth, no, from people to tell others about it, it will take a very long time. And with franchising, as in many things, time is very important. No? It's urgent. No? Time is money. So you want to be able to reach as many prospective franchisees as possible through a good marketing plan. No? So, for example, what trade shows to attend, so that even if you don't have stores yet in the Visayas, you'll be able to reach prospective franchisees through trade shows such as this, or maybe presence in the internet, and maybe advertisement in very effective publications that reach entrepreneurs. You also need to put some thought into franchise sales. When we say sales, the typical idea is that it's when somebody buys something and there's an exchange of money. But in franchise, sales starts when somebody calls. Somebody asks about a franchise, or somebody asks your store personnel whether you are franchising or not. No? That's the beginning of the sales process. Okay? So it's not just when you're signing the agreement or when you're receiving the franchise fee. So you need to be able to train frontliners and people who answer the phone, people who send out email, about how to how to address questions such as that, how to do franchise sales. Sales also includes being able to evaluate franchise applicants. People say that franchising is like a marriage, and those of you who are in relationships know that it takes a while to get to know, your prospective partner. And the same in franchising, you need to be able to know about the applicant as much as possible before you grant the franchise. We've seen that many of the problems that franchisors have would have been avoided if they only did a better job during the sales phase, during the evaluation. If they were able to do a better job of screening the applicants, then many of the problems would not have been experienced. So basically, this is what you need, to be able to franchise, to have a good franchise program, and I'll discuss a few of them in more detail. This is a good time to really go into franchising, because recently some of the banks have been very supportive of the franchise industry. Those of you who visited the booths downstairs would probably have seen BPI giving franchise loans. They call their kanegosyo loans. So they give loans to both the franchisor, yourselves, during the development process, and they also give loans to prospective franchisees. That was the problem we were experiencing with in the franchise industry before, is that there's very little funding. When banks would loan to franchisors or franchisees, they would still ask for collateral, but now they recognize the strength of franchising, and they are able to give out loans even without the traditional collateral. So this is a good time to really go into franchising, whether you are buying a franchise or you want to sell a franchise. Okay, so before you actually develop a franchise program, one of the things you need to determine is the franchisability of your business. So as the term implies, it's the franchise feasibility of your business. Even if you're very convinced about franchising and you think it will help your business, you need to determine first, is my business franchisable? Baka naman hindi. Maybe my business is not franchisable, or maybe I need to wait a little while before I go into franchising. Otherwise, I'll just I'll just make the franchisee's life miserable and my own also, no, if I'm not yet really franchisable. So these are the criteria that we look at to determine franchisability.